numerical data. Marcos. Omar. You can see. You've been sitting there. Yes, you can. It's the same distance. That uses bars. And equal intervals. A way to represent numerical data that uses bars and equal intervals. All right, when we talk about intervals, intervals just mean that we're counting by something. So we're just making sure that we're counting like by tens or by fives. So if you weren't sure what those equal intervals, so it's not going to go like 2, 7, 8, 12, 36. We're going to make sure we're counting by fives or counting by tens. You can sit next to Abdi up there. Yep, up by Abdi. All right. That also shows frequency. So that's a really big idea today is frequency. And frequency might be a new word for us, or we might not be familiar with it. We might know it, but we don't use it every day. What does frequency mean? What? Yeah, how often it happens. If you're a frequent flyer, you get frequent flyer miles, meaning if you fly a lot, you get miles. They give you rewards for that. Okay, so frequency is how often it happens. So if you need to write that as a reminder, you're going to be asked to make a frequency table later on today, and that's really important that we know that that means how often it happens or how often something happens, or that's in that interval. All right, you're going to be getting a glue in. Don't need to cut it apart. You can just glue it in as it is. All right, so go ahead and get that glued in. As you find your glue, if you want to take out some colored pencils, you can. All right, so go ahead and get that glued in. All right, so get that glued in. All right, so as we take a look at our first histogram, what is our oh, sorry, you guys are still gluing in. Sometimes I forget that I get the glue in before you, and then I just start teaching. So still seeing a lot of glue sticks out there. Get those glued in. All right, as we take a look at our first histogram, what is it about? Good, heights of black cherry trees. How are we going to measure the height of a cherry tree? Are we measuring it by feet, inches, yards? Good, on the bottom here it tells us that we're measuring it by feet. And then we have our frequency. So we might have looked like at a grove. Edgar. Alright, as we look at this, we're looking at a grove, so we're measuring lots of different trees and just seeing what height they are, but we're only looking at black cherry trees, because certain trees grow taller than others, right? Not all trees just grow up to be the same height. Certain trees get bigger than others. What is happening? Alright, Edgar, phone away. Oh, never mind. Keep gluing. Good job. Ooh, my bad. Alright. So as we take a look at this, let's go through and just decide some information about this. As I look at 60 to 65, how many trees are there between 60 to 65 feet? That's so tall. How many, what does this bar go up to? Yeah, it's in between 2 and 4. And since we're talking about trees, it's probably not a decimal. So we have about 3 trees in that 60 to 65 range. What about 65 to 70? 3. As soon as we hit that 70 feet, we're now in the next category. So it could be 70.2 feet. It could be exactly 70 feet. It might be 74.5 feet. But in between 70 to 75 feet, we have how many? Yeah, that actually lines up right with that 8. $75 to $80, 10, 80 to 85, all right, 80 to 85 is 5, and 85 to 90, yep, 2, good. Very nice. All right, so for our maximum height, if I want to know what is the maximum, what was the tallest tree? What's the tallest tree we have? What? Do we know the exact tallest tree?
No.
Is it 90 feet?
No.
No, but we know what the interval that the maximum happens between. It's somewhere between 85 to 90 feet. So this is not a great tool if you need to know specifics. If you need to know exactly what is the highest, what their exact intervals are. But with trees, every tree is different, right? So because every tree is different, we're probably going to group them and say, okay, between 70, 75, 80, 85, things like that. All right, our mode. Mode means what again? Most often. Which one has the most frequency? What's our highest bar? Good, 75 to 80. Most of these trees are growing between 75 to 80 feet. So if I plant a black cherry tree in my yard, I have to make sure that I'm ready for it to grow 75 to 80 feet, which is insane. That's really tall. For sure can't plant it underneath a power line. If you plant it underneath a power line, they're going to come and chop it down. The city will come chop it down because it'll get in the way. All right, last one. We're going to answer on this question, and then we're going to make our own histogram. Is how many trees are shorter than 75 feet? All right, how many trees are shorter than 75 feet? Well, yeah, but you're not supposed to answer it yet. What did I just say, Dave? Oh my gosh. You're not supposed to answer it yet. I'm giving time for people to write it down. Wait time. I know. I'm just giving you a tough time. Alright, so let's think about how we're going to do this. Where are we looking on our histogram? Good, below we want shorter than 75. So if you want to use a highlighter, you could, or if you want to grab a colored pencil. Shorter than 75. It doesn't give us an end point, so it just means we're going to look at this 75. And we're going shorter. So is shorter to the left or to the right? To the left. So we're looking at anything that's over on this left-hand side. So if you wanted to use a highlighter, you could, or you can color it in with a colored pencil, or just put maybe a box around it or a circle if you're not using colors. So I'm going to count all the parts that are underneath that 75. So what do we have underneath that 75? We have that 8 for 70 to 75, and we're going to add it together with 3 and 3. And like some of you found out already, some of you probably said it in your heads and didn't say it. A couple of us said it already, and that's fine. What is 8 plus 3 plus 3? 14. And what are we measuring? 14 what? Trees.
Alright, just so everyone knows, the tallest tree is Hyperion, which is in California, and it's 380 feet tall.
I saw it. I saw it.
You saw it?
I have a picture of it.
Actually?
Yeah. The picture of it? Yeah, at some point. I'd have to look back at my photos. It would take me a while. All right, last one. This one we're going to create our own histogram. So if you want to do a little dash line, you can. If you're like, you're going to get cars confused with trees. If you're not, I don't know. I always do lines. When in doubt, draw a line. All right, so as we take a look at this next part, we have car weights. And what are we measuring the weights in? Good, kg stands for that kilograms. All right, and we're measuring our car weights. Why do car weights change how much a car weighs? When you look at a car, shouldn't a car just weigh the same amount as a car? No? Why do they have different weights? Different parts, yeah. Some are taller, some are longer. If you look at like the different brands, depending on where they make it, things like that. Especially if you look like at an SUV and a car. Hey, you two, stop messing around. Should an SUV weigh the same as like a normal, regular 4-passenger car? Probably not. Or like a Jeep. Those things are huge. All right, so as we take a look at this, we're going to first notice our numbers. We have 1,425, 1,045, 970, 1,715, 1,620, 1,735. We need to figure out how are we going to do our intervals. Are we going to count by 5s, 10s, hundreds, thousands? By 5s? You're going to go 970, 975, 980, 985? No. We got to get all the way up. Oh, 835 is our lowest. We have to get 835 as our minimum, and our maximum is 1,735. So to get from 835 to 1,735, we have to go about 1,000 numbers. So to count 1,000 numbers, would we count by 5s, 10s, hundreds, or thousands? Yeah, probably hundreds. So I'm going to make our frequency chart here. If you want to, you could do it kind of on this right side and then make your histogram below over here. Okay, so this is called the frequency table. And a frequency table takes us for how much do they happen, because this is going to be how we measure our bars. How often does it go? We're going to start at what's our lowest, 835. So if you count by hundreds, we would do 835 to 935. Or we can make it easier on ourselves, which I'm a fan of, and just go from 800 to 900 to 1,000. Is that okay with you guys? Okay, so I'm going to start at 800, and then I'm going to count by hundreds until we get up to 1,000. We're going to have to stop. Let's do that. Yep, my brain. 800, 900. And we'll go up another 100, so 1,000. 1,100. 1,200. 1,300, 1,400, 1,500, 1,600, and then we have 1,700. If you're not sure, we couldn't go to that 1,800, and we'll see if we get any there. So the frequency table is actually pretty long. Once we actually do the work, it's going to actually fit in this spot here underneath. It's a little shorter. All right, so as we take a look, when I do 800 to 900, I want to know how many are between 800 and 900. So as I look, I have this 835. And then the next number I have is 970. Is that going to go in our 800 part here? Nope, that will go in the 900. So how many do we have from 800 to 900? 1. All right, what about 900 to 1,000? Yep, just that 970, just 1. So if you want to color match, so you can kind of see where we're getting this data from, or you could like do an underline and a squiggle, squiggle. Next year, depending on your geometry teacher, some of them like to do colors, some don't. So if you're somebody who you like to color code but you don't have colors, you can always do these like little squiggles. You could do like a little arrow saying, oh, 900, there's the 900. Maybe box it or circle it. All right, now we have the thousands. In the thousands, we want to make sure that we're counting numbers between 1,000 and 1,100. We don't want to go over that 1,100 mark. So what do we have for that? 2. So we have 1,045 and 1,050. All right, what about 1,100? Yeah, I'm not even going to take time to color code that because are there any? Nope. So 0. $1,200. Oh, yep, we have one. So color code that if you'd like to. Oh, how many? 2. I thought there was 1. There we go. 2. Good catch. Any 1,300s? 1,400s? Yep. How many? 2. $1,500. 600. 2. 1,700. 2. 'Do we have any that exceed 1,700? I'm sorry, that go above 1,800? No. So what's really important here is as we think about our histogram, we do have to have an end cap because those 2 don't end at 1,700. They go to 1,800. All right, so for our frequencies, our highest number is 2. So that means our frequency table doesn't need to be very tall. All right, so as we create this over here, we're going to create a really long graph because we have lots of numbers. All right, on our left side, this will be our frequency. So if you need to turn your notebook sideways for frequency. And we only had to go up to 2. So this very bottom one would be 0. And I like to just use my notebook lines here. So this next line in my notebook will be 1. If you want to do a little dash there so you know. And then 2. And then to be professional, usually we go 1 or more than we need to, just so it doesn't max out our space depending on what we're doing. All right, down below, this is going to be the numbers. And what do these numbers represent? Weights. And the weight was measured in kilograms. Okay, and we're going to start here. We'll start at 800. And we're going to go all the way up to 1,800. So you might need to make kind of pretty small tick marks here. So 800, that'll be 900, 1,000. So even though I'm only going to label every other, I'm still making a tick mark for like that 1,100. I'm just not going to have enough space to write out every number because otherwise I'd have to write really, really small, and I'm not really capable of that. So 1,300, 1,400, 1,500, 1,600, 1,700. Now, if I don't do a 1,800, our answer there was 0. We had none there. But my bar would come after that, and I want to know what is the end cap to that 1,700. And we did 1,700 to 1,800. So you got to write kind of small there. And by kind of small, I mean pretty small. Alright, so as we go through, we're just matching and we're going to make bars based on our frequency table. So in the 800 bar here, where are we going to go up to? 800 to 900 was 1. If you color coded and you want to color your bars, you can. That might help you see what's happening. All right, next up we have the 900 to 1,000 range. So because it picks up right at the 900, I want them to be connected. So I don't want to leave a little space there. So that was the big difference between bar graphs and this numerical data, histograms, is we wanted to touch as we go. So 900 to 1,000, there was 1. Again, if you color code it, if you want to color that in. All right, 1,000 to 1,100, we had 2. So in this next one, I'm going to go up to the 2 mark. All right, 1,100, there's none. So we're actually going to skip over that interval. There'll be a little gap. And that gap represents that there was nothing there. There was 0. So next up we have 1,200. And that one had 2. So I'm going to, from 1,200, go up to 2. And then back down to 1,300. Again, 1,300, there was none. Oops, I forgot to write 0 there. If you wanted to write zeros there, you could. So we're going to skip over the 1,300. We're going to go to 1,400. 1,400 had 2. Skip over the 1,500. We're at 1,600. 1,600 has 2. And then lastly, we have 1,700, which has 2. So again, we're just connecting it as we go. As we do our histogram, it's really important we try our best not to make one look wider than the other. So for example, in mine, these middle ones look a little bit wider, especially than these beginning ones. But we want to make sure that this 1,200 one, this blue one, it doesn't look like it's more than this orange one. We want to make sure that as we read it, we're not looking at the width of it, that they're the same interval. All right, overall, what is our title for this big idea, this graph? We have our little titles here, the frequency and weight. What would we put the big title as? Car weight. And that would make it car weights. I don't know why. It sounds better to me than just car weight. All right, this one was, I don't know, I wouldn't say it was boring, but it's kind of boring when it's only 1 to 2. Gets a little bit more exciting when it ranges 5 to 8 or something like that. Your reset. Your quick check today is on Schoology. It is 2 questions. Should be really quick to finish. If you did not finish your STAR test, you could use this 17 minutes to finish your STAR test, or you could do that during your Eagle time today. Okay, quick check is in Schoology. It's only 2 questions. Shouldn't take you too long.